Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. This watch list, we're basically watching the same ones we've been watching for the last couple weeks. Not much has really changed. Put to call ratio is at 0.46. It's the lowest it's been in the last year. Looking at the weekly, the last time the put to call ratio was this low was back in April of 2022. So we could definitely see April 2022. Where was that? Let's right April, right here. Yeah, right in here. And look, it popped pretty close afterwards. So even though VIX did get lower right there, but yeah, put the call ratio. Everyone that's on the call side right now, it'd be a good time to pull the rug on people. The economic calendar for the week, obviously today we have off, short week this week. Tuesday we don't have really anything going. Williams speaking at 11:45. That's about it. Wednesday we have Powell testifying at 10 a.m. Bunch of Fed speakers. Then on Thursday we have unemployment claims. Then we have Powell testifying again at 10 a.m. So it's going to be a crazy Wednesday and Thursday. Then on Friday we have flash PMI Friday morning. So Powell speaking and testifying, we could end up seeing some volatility. Maybe that's what's going to send the market down this week. I don't know. We'll have to see if that actually happens. VIX right now closed Friday at 1348. Well, actually that was a low, right around 1350. So very, very, very low. I'm expecting a pop to 20, but I was expecting that last week and it just didn't happen in the week before. It's just SPY just keeps going and VIX just keeps getting hammered on. So VIX can only be compressed for so long. It does not stay down long before it does pop. The question is it going to be this week? Is it going to be next week? I thought FOMC and the inflation numbers last week was going to be the catalyst to get the market moving and dumping, but it didn't. So maybe Powell testifying this week will be the catalyst, or not unless something else happens to get the market moving. But the VIX is way, way too low. It's not going to stay down here. Yeah, we have to go back pretty far. Yeah, back down here, it was like $12. I don't see it going to below 13 to 12. I don't see that, but it can happen. Never say never. But I very unlikely that's going to happen. Something's going to happen this week that's going to get the market going, freaking out. So VIX got room to 20. So that's what I'll be looking at. SPY broke out, had a strong move, but I mean a lot of stocks broke out this week, like Microsoft and Apple. And we had a red day on Friday, but we had an insane pop on Thursday, red day on Friday. So I would watch SPY underneath like 435 for push down. We get a lot of gaps to fill down here at the 425 area. That gap filled right there, I think. Yeah, that gap got filled right there. Gaps right there, 423. This 410.50 level will probably come into play at some point. That'd be a pretty significant drop considering we're up at 440 right now. So that'd be like a $30 drop, which it could definitely end up happening. But probably have to be pretty significant news. I mean, look at the RSI on the daily. Went above to 75 on the daily. Weekly is getting close to 70. You can see right here when it gets to above 70 on the weekly, it does pull back a little bit, but just enough. What it's doing is it's pulling back just enough to cool off the RSI so it can keep chugging up. And as you can see right here, it's oversold right here. And it just keeps grinding up. So it just gets overbought. drops a little bit to cool the RSI and goes more and cools off the RSI a little bit and goes more and cools off. Just that's what it's been doing right here. But we'll have to see. Then we have so much going on right now in the world that I just don't see how VIX can stay down here much longer. I mean, last week I really thought it was going to go, but it just didn't. So I am not interested in taking calls, especially when VIX is below 14. You can do it. I am not. So I'm only looking at the short side, unless we get a big dump, at least a $10 dump. Then I'll change my mindset. But right now, call put side is the only thing I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the call side. Apple had a red day on Friday. It broke out. Apple's one of those companies that just lowers its EPS and lowers its guidance and just ends up going. It's just Apple's notorious for lowering its guidance and lowering its expectations and EPS, and yet it just keeps going. I mean, eventually this thing's going to end up dropping. RSI is on the weekly is at 74. This thing needs to cool off, at least drop down to the 170 area. So you can watch Apple underneath 182, push to 177 down to 170. So actually, I want to look back at the Apple. Look at that trend line right there. And that's the, yeah. I mean, it can keep shooting up to this 187 area where this trend line is from the weekly right there. We can definitely do that before I end up stalling out, but RSI is just getting way too high on that. BA did have a nice little break rate over that 215 area, which I missed. But if it ends up having a, this is probably the only one I'd look for the call side. If it does manage to get over this 220, we'll say 224, it gets over 224, we could end up seeing a pretty significant pop to 225, 230, 235, 240. BA's got room to run, but I mean, I'd also look at it underneath 215. So basically over 224 for calls or under 215 for puts. And if it gets under 215, it's probably going to end up making a run down to 200 again. So BA definitely more favorable on the call side, but you can look at it on either side because I think it's got a nice little area on both sides. You can play under 215 and over 224. So BA definitely has some opportunities there. Meta just keeps going and going and going. The RSI on the weekly, it's just in the 70s. It's been hovering in the 70s. It just keeps gapping up and grinding up and grinding up. It's crazy. They're going to keep going to 300. I have no idea. We'll have to see what happens. But I would not take calls on Facebook, on Meta, I should say. I would look for it underneath 271 for push to 260. Get gap fills down here at the 225 area, and gap fills down here at the 216. I don't think it's going to get that low, but it'll probably end up stalling out at 220, and 200 be a big psychological number on that. That'd be a $80 drop on Meta. I just don't see it making that kind of a drop, but it can definitely make a drop down to the 260, 240 area, even the gap support here at the 235-ish area. So definitely keep an eye on Meta for a drop. Microsoft was one that had a massive pop breakout over the the 344 area, and it kind of like rejected, popped over, and it is coming back underneath the 340.50 area. This is where it's been stalling out. So maybe if it gets underneath 340, we can get pushed down to the 330, 325, even 320. Got gap fills down here at 380, 289, 290. What is this? 293 is gap support right there. So probably likely holds at the 295 area. 300 being a big psychological number. It'd have to be a pretty significant drop. I mean, anytime you get the market going too far away from the RCT trend line, which is down here at 300, it's got room to drop. So even though if it takes a while, it does manage to catch up with it sooner or later. So we'll have to see if that actually happens. On Microsoft, NVDA is just ridiculous. We've been watching this forever, and it just, every time you think it's run out of gas, it just keeps going and going and going. It's kind of like Meta. We've seen it with Roku and Baidu and Baba in the past. It's takes a long time. I mean, the RSI is well over 80. On the weekly, you have a bearish divergence going on right here. You get a higher high. RSI is making lower high. Instagram is making lower high. So we get definitely a bearish divergence going on, and yeah, it just keeps going. Even though if you see a bearish divergence, you don't jump in puts right away, because divergences can last for a long time. So I would watch it underneath, I'd say 425 or even 420. Push to 400, then you got gap support right here at 375. I'd probably likely hold 375 gap support. Then if it does manage to bounce off gap support, that it can make a big head and shoulders, like bounce here, then make another like head and shoulders, then it break down probably months down the road. Definitely watch NVIDIA for that. Tesla, another one. Now Tesla, it filled the gap right here on the weekly, right there, almost to the penny. What was the low in this one? 262.47. Yeah, it filled the gap over about $1. So it did fill this gap. So to me, I'd keep an eye on. Plus, look at the daily RSI. It's like over 80. I would watch it underneath. You can even say underneath 360. We'll push down to 355. 362. 260, 255, 250. You get a gap support right here at 245. Then you get a gap fill right here. Probably could likely fill the gap if there's any market weakness at all. So you definitely could see the gap fill to 235 on Tesla. So we'll just have to see what happens this week. I think everything's going to hinge on what Powell says and testifies this week, and hopefully that will give us some movement. So many tickers are overbought by a lot that need to cool down and come down, at least for to let RSIs cool down before going more. So hopefully that will get some movement this week. It's a short week, like I said, and we'll just have to see what happens. So that's going to do it for the watch list, and thanks for watching.